Well, 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 Chanel. Another price increase just happened a week ago. I was away for about a month, came back, and now I hear all this buzz about Chanel. Before I left, sometime in the spring to early summer, there was word on the street that Chanel was not going to do price increases. They had alluded to a pause in price increases. Well, another increase. So I'm going to go through the numbers, which I have here. They were published just recently. I went onto the website, it's official, and it's so funny, the irony. When I came back from my travels, I had this Chanel booklet sitting in my mail pile. It had arrived while I was away. And there was a time years ago when I used to get excited about flipping through these. I felt like it was somewhat of a privilege to get a preview, and it's so glossy and pretty. And this time I only saved it to show you in this video. It's going right into the recycling bin. I don't know. I'm not angry at Chanel. It doesn't make sense to be angry with a brand or a company. They're not that important. But I do think that they've been tone deaf for a really long time. Of course, they're not the only brand that has been doing price increases. And of course, we've seen price increases and inflation on practically everything. And by the way, these luxury items from Chanel are complete frivolous, non-essential purchases. So if you have the money and you think it's worth it, go for it. If you have the money and you don't think it's worth it, then don't. And if you have been diligently saving up so that you can purchase your dream bag or a dream item from a brand like Chanel, and you're just growing frustrated and disillusioned with the price increases, I think that many are feeling that way. And I do think that it's time to really consider maybe it's just not worth it anymore, because there's no point in chasing a brand or chasing an item, right? Well, I have Chanel bags, and so I may sound like a hypocrite, but I've really thought about this over the years. And number one, if I did not have any Chanel bags, would I buy one today? And the answer is most likely no. I think I've evolved as a person, and I've become more mindful as a consumer, and I've also been able to explore so many other brands with really nice quality craftsmanship that it really started to make me question, is this all marketing? I know there's the history and the heritage and the story, but if you strip that away, at the end of the day, it's materials woven together to make a bag to hold your stuff, right? So if you still feel excited about the idea of carrying a Chanel bag, then go for it. If you think it's worth your money, no one's going to stop you. But I think a lot of us are feeling a bit numbed out from this. And if you're thinking, wow, you can say that because you have these Chanel bags, I'm actually going to be selling a few of my Chanel bags this year. I've already determined to simplify. I want to pull back. I'm not using all of them, and I don't need all of them, and I just don't want all of them. So that's the perspective that I'm bringing today. But let's jump into the numbers. So starting with the wallet on chain classic, this was previously $35.50. These are all US prices, and now as of August 4th, it is $3,700. So it went up by $150, which is about a 4% increase. Now, $150 is nothing really in the large scheme of things if you're about to drop a few $1,000s on a handbag. But everybody has their limit. And these increases have been very rapid, very frequent, and very aggressive, more than any other brand that we know of in the luxury landscape. So let's just keep in mind that $150 may not seem like much, but if you add it all up, the price of this wallet on chain has gone up by over $1,000 from just a few years ago. And then I know there are people who argue, well, you can go back even further, like 10, 20 years, and those people saved even more money because it was even cheaper back then. Yes, of course, it was less expensive the further back you go, but the increases historically have never been so steep and so rapid and so frequent as they've been in the last few years. So if you just look at the past 5 years, that's when you see like a hockey stick just jumps. These prices have spiked. All right, so that's the new price of the wallet on chain, $3,700. Then you've got the mini square. This was $5,000, and just last week it went up by $200, so it's now $5,200. That is about a 4% increase again. Then we've got the mini rectangle. So this one went from $5,200 to $5,400. So now this is $5,400, which was the price of the medium classic flap just a few years ago. So this too went up by $200. So this here is the medium classic flap. It is a vintage over 20 years old. Now this was retailing for, I can't even say the price, I have to take a deep breath because I often forget how much the price is now. $10,800 was the last retail price. It is now $11,300. That's a $500 increase. So actually the small size, the medium size, the large, which is the jumbo that I have back here, they all went up by $500 each, as well as the maxi. So this went up by about 4.5%. It's now $11,300, which then we get into the whole argument of why wouldn't you just get an Hermes bag, a Birkin, or a Kelly? But I've talked about this in the past. Those are apples and oranges. People who like Chanel and the look of Chanel may also like Hermes, Birkins, and Kellys, but they look totally different. They feel totally different. It's a very different aesthetic. So it's not really, okay, now let's go buy Hermes versus Chanel. We need to start looking at the hard, cold facts. The truth is, all of these bags are way overpriced. They were always overpriced for the brand and the marketing and the hype, but now they are even beyond that point. It's like, how much brainwashing do they have to do now to convince people that it's worth spending $11,300 for this bag? Here's the jumbo. Went from $11,700 to $12,200. Again, a $500 increase. I really like the look of Chanel bags. I love the quilting and the chains. But lately, you guys, I've been using this bag. This is quilted too, but it's nylon. It's my MZ Wallace Hobo shoulder bag. I've raved about this before. It's easy peasy, low maintenance. So I do not discriminate when it comes to bags. I use what I like, I use what works for me, and I'm not a snob about bags. I will use no-name bags, I will use cheap bags. I also happen to like expensive bags, but over the past few years, it's just gotten out of hand. Really ridiculous what's going on with the prices and the decline in quality. For those who are interested in the prices of some of the other bags that were impacted, I'm going to post this chart that was shared by the Purse Bop. If you're not already following the Purse Bop on Instagram, you may want to do that because they are often one of the first to announce when there's a price increase coming, and then when they're official, they're one of the first to list them. So this information or this chart is directly from the Purse Bop. I want to make sure that they get credit for it. So if you're a regular viewer on my channel, you'll know that I often share out quarterly reports and the financial results of these brands, whether it be Chanel, Hermes, LVMH. So it's interesting. I just wanted to remind you all that Chanel's revenues have been on the decline. So is Chanel trying to make up the difference with price increases? Because I think it was about a year or two ago when one of the Chanel executives came out, was interviewed and cited in an article saying that the price increases helped their revenue boosts. And it's like, that's a really lame way to make more money. Why not focus on quality or ingenuity, creativity, innovation, new designs, something exciting for the customer, rather than just churn out the same old with less quality and higher prices? So this is really funny. In one of the articles online, there was a Chanel executive quoted saying, "We intend to maintain more or less the same policy, which is to monitor our prices in line with global inflation." Really? Global inflation? Yes, inflation is a problem and it's a real thing. But do you really think that Chanel has been matching their price increases to inflation rates? No way. Just look at the math. Nope, straight up not true. The Chanel Classic Flap in the medium size, which is like their iconic bag, they're now calling it the 11.12, whatever. Rename it, whatever you want, it's the same thing, has gone up by about 100%. It has doubled in the last 5 years. Anytime I make videos announcing price increases and sharing my personal reaction to it, I will always get at least a few comments, most likely from newer viewers, saying that it's because I can't afford to buy these bags at the new prices, and that's why I'm mad. I want to say two things to that. Number one, whether you can afford it or not is not the issue anymore. It is about value. It is about value. Many of us who have the money are walking away anyway. The point is not that we don't have the money, it's that we don't want to spend our hard-earned money on this anymore. It's not worth it. There's always a fine line between price and value. The customer has to feel like there's enough value in it to pay the price, whatever that price is, whether it's $10 or $10 million. You have to feel some kind of value, even if it's artificially made by a marketing machine. You have to feel good about it. And a lot of people, myself included, are feeling like it's getting harder and harder to get excited about this stuff. And for those who actually are now priced out, I'm sure it is very frustrating, because if you have been saving to buy something new from the boutique and now it's $500 more or $200 more, again, it may not seem like a lot, but if you've been chasing these price increases, I do think that the brand is sending the message that you can't catch me. Of course, there have been so many conversations about Chanel and their strategy to become more exclusive, and they don't want to be actually accessible to a large population of customers. They want to be like the snob brand, and they want to catch up to Hermes, and who knows what they're thinking. All I know is that me personally today, I'm not buying one of these bags. And you guys know, if you've followed my videos for a while, I don't go into Chanel anymore. I don't look at Chanel unless I'm making a video for you guys and I have to do research. I don't get as excited about Chanel. I'm using and enjoying what I already have, but there's nothing in me that gets me all fueled up about looking at the new collections or keeping up with the new seasons. It's also just too much, too frequently. It feels like churn and burn. It really doesn't feel as special. And I think part of it is that the brand has taken themselves in kind of a strange direction over the years. But also I think there's been an evolution quietly happening in me, or a revolution. Maybe I'm revolting, I don't know. But I think I've changed a lot. And when I was younger and working and hustling, I used to think, because I work so hard, I deserve this badge of honor. I deserve to have a luxury brand name item. I deserve to indulge. And now I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I could strip all of that away and I would still be just as content with my life. Taking all of my bags away would not change my life at all. So anyway, I really debated whether or not I should make this video. I was thinking, do I even want to give it the time of day? But I thought I would share out to those of you who are still interested in this type of topic. And it's always interesting to have a dialogue to see where everyone stands. So let me know your comments down below. None of this is a surprise, right? Even though Chanel had alluded to pausing their price hikes, now that they've increased their prices again, I don't think anyone is shocked. It has become so common practice for them. In fact, now when you think of Chanel, or at least the way I see Chanel, in the past, I would think of them as luxury, something magical and special, something from the old era. I would think of Coco Chanel and the story and the heritage. And yes, I thought of the craftsmanship, but I also just thought of the aesthetic and how refined I thought these Chanel bags looked. And that's what I equated Chanel to be, very fashionable. And now I feel like many of us, myself included, when we think of Chanel, we think of the price increases, the quality issues, the poor client service, and all the stories of, customers being mistreated. Maybe it's just social media and the nature of how stories spread nowadays, but the way I view Chanel as a brand has definitely changed. And again, I don't know if that's from me and my own inner changes, or if it's from the changes with the brand and the market and the luxury hype that's become so overwhelming and boring. Actually, boring. It feels very boring and predictable. So anyway, that is my 2 cents on this topic. Let me know if you have any questions, and please share your own point of view. I am serious. I am going to downsize on my Chanel bag collection. I'm also going to downsize on my other bags. I am definitely craving more simplicity, and so this is just a heads up. I'm probably going to go in that direction just with this channel. I don't know if that's just the season of life that I'm in or the age. I'm now in my mid-40s. By the way, I spent July in Europe, between Paris, the south of France. We stopped off in Monaco, and then Italy, Rome, Florence, the countryside of Tuscany. All of those places, I barely saw any luxury handbags except on tourists. Isn't that interesting? I barely saw. Now, when I was in Milan last year, I saw more handbags, and I couldn't really tell if they were tourists or residents, Italian citizens. But Milan, of course, is the fashion capital of Europe, right? But yeah, maybe I didn't notice the handbags because I didn't care and I wasn't looking anymore. I also passed by so many luxury stores like almost every day. One of our hotels was right outside Hermes, the other hotel was right in front of Louis Vuitton, and I didn't even glance at the windows from the outside. So I'm definitely in a different mental space these days, and I don't think it's a phase. So stay tuned for my regular viewers to see how this all plays out. It may turn out to be a bumpy journey, kind of up and down, but I hope that you will stick with me and come along for the ride. And if you enjoyed this video in any way, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to see your comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.